Have you ever felt mistreated, treated differently because of what you look like or who you are? Have you ever felt silence for what you believe in? Have you ever been isolated and excluded from others? Systemic discrimination refers to the operating policies or procedures of many organizations that has the effect of denying groups of people their rights or excluding them from participation and can involve multiple types of discrimination. The most notorious examples of systemic discrimination that took place in history includes the Holocaust, the Japanese-Canadian internment, and the Canadian Indian residential school system. Despite that, systemic discrimination still exists today and continues to negatively impact many individuals.
So what are you gonna order? I think I'll just order pizza. What's wrong? I don't want to serve table time. Why? They're Muslims and they make it uncomfortable. Okay, hold on. Excuse me, ladies. You should leave the restaurant or prepare your meal because you're making people uncomfortable.
2% of the population reported experiencing discrimination on the basis of their religion in the last 5 years. That is more than 600,000 people.
In May 2014, Emil Weckham went to a restaurant in Toronto's Chinatown with friends. The server told them they would need to prepay for their meals due to restaurant policy. Realizing he and his friends were the only black people, they later found they were the only ones who had prepaid.
Wickham filed a human rights complaint to which the restaurant said they had lots of people who dined and dashed. But in a recent ruling, the adjudicator found the restaurant violated Wickham's right to equal treatment and awarded him $10,000. A victory, but Wickham wants the public to keep in mind.
This was just a time for us to unwind, and the fact that we couldn't do that in a city that really plays up its multiculturalism really said something. And I decided there and then that night that I was going to stand up for this.
This is a form of systemic discrimination. Canada has come a long way towards ensuring LGBT equality, such as legalizing same-sex marriage in 2005.
Concluded that, these unions should be legal in Canada.
Here's to us, our lawyers, and Canada.
However, systemic discrimination still affects people who are part of the LGBT community, particularly Canadian seniors, who fear discrimination when trying to access healthcare and support resources, believing they'll have to once again hide their pride to avoid prejudice.
Leslie is a youthful 64, and one of the things Lily, her cane, does for her is remind Leslie of the time she spent in a Toronto rehab hospital.
This one nurse came in and said to me, "Look at you, you're a mess. It's bad enough that you're one of those, and now I have to come and clean you up." And it was humiliating because I had no control and I had to totally depend on her. And for the whole time she was cleaning me, she kept making homophobic remarks. Kept saying, you don't have a husband, you don't have children, where do you think you're going to go in life? It's bringing tears to my eyes just thinking about it. We don't have the support systems that straight seniors have in place. We are having to decide whether we want to come out and be our whole selves or we want to get good health care.
Excuse me, I'd like to work on the bench press. Where can I find the 10 pounds dumbbells?
I'm sorry. Women aren't allowed to use heavy weights here. It's only permitted for men.
What do you mean? What does my gender has to do with anything?
According to our policy, women aren't allowed to lift heavy weights since they are expected later in life to carry a child.
How do you know if even I want to have kids? Gender-based discrimination happens throughout the world. Canada's primary national sports networks concludes that out of approximately 35,000 hours in programming, only 4% went towards the coverage of women's sports in 2014.
Systemic discrimination also affects people with disabilities when using transportation. 20-year-old Melissa Graham, who had been in a wheelchair all her life, told Toronto Star that a taxi driver charged her $20 for a 5-minute trip to the hospital. Canada still lacks accessible taxis in Toronto, and provincial law states people with disability should not be charged more for a service than people without.
As you can see, systemic discrimination is unacceptable in all aspects and has severe consequences. Preventing it would reduce hatred that could potentially lead to prejudices and overall create a more peaceful and safer environment in Canada.
Stop systemic discrimination!
What can we do about it, you ask? If you are being discriminated against, don't pretend that it isn't happening and is unlikely to go away if you ignore it. Don't rely on your memory and carefully record the details of the discrimination as soon as it occurs. Review your human rights and seek advice because you don't have to go through it alone. For more information on the human rights system in Ontario and how to file a human rights complaint, please visit www.ontario.ca/humanrights.
A message from the Government of Canada.